is up, Internet? This is Kyle with Slapshot Toys and Comics doing another figure review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Star Wars Elite Series Darth Vader figure. This Elite Series line is exclusive to the Disney Store, and they actually just re-released a whole line of original and prequel trilogy figures that they had released back in November that were sold out extremely quickly, but they re-released them in celebration of the Blu-ray release of The Force Awakens. So I was able to go over to my local Disney store and get this morning. I wanted to get a review up for the Blu-ray release as well. These are actually really cool figures. I like them quite a bit. But let's go ahead and get this guy open and take a look at what we got. Alright, so here is the Sith Lord out of the packaging. And I've got to say, first impressions, this is a really, really good looking figure. There are some issues as far as articulation and things like that, which I'll get into a little bit later. But overall, this is a really, really good Darth Vader figure. I'm really happy I was able to get it. But for the first part, let's take a look at some of the accessories that he does come with. Alright, taking a look at the accessories that come with this Vader figure, much like the rest of the Elite Series figures, they really don't come with a whole lot of accessories. Just really one weapon that the character may use in the films. But one nice thing that the Elite Series figures do come with is this plastic stand here. If you can see, there's a little bit of sculpting and texture and detail throughout the base. There is a peg for the foothold, and these are really nice to getting the figures to stand up. They are a bit heavy being the metal figures, so these come in handy really nicely, and it's got the nice Star Wars sculpted in there. So all in all, these are really cool bases. I'm glad that they come with them. I think they just add a little bit to the figures. And then it does come with Darth Vader's obviously standard lightsaber. So we have the red blade, which is kind of a reddish translucent plastic. It gives way into the black paint. It does look like, at least on this one, the black paint comes up off the hilt quite a bit and into the blade. Not a big deal. I mean, as long as the blade's mostly red, it's not a big deal in my opinion. And the hilt actually looks pretty good. I mean, the paint's a little bit, as you can see, a little bit sloppy right there. But I mean, that's going to be in Vader's hand anyway. But overall, I think it's a pretty good sculpt and paint job on this lightsaber. So overall, I really like it, even though it's very minimal in the accessories that they do come with. No interchangeable hands, nothing crazy like that, but decent for the amount that the figures are. So now we're going to take a look at Vader himself, and like I said a little bit earlier, I really think this is a very, very good looking figure. If we take a closer look, just everything from the detail in the mask, the way they sculpted out, the actual grid in his mouthpiece there. He got the chain that wraps around the cape and holds it in place. The helmet looks great. Everything on the facial features looks good. Paint looks good. None of that silver is really bleeding into the black and vice versa. Everything on the body looks fantastic. Everything from the shoulder pads here, the chest plate, going down to the robotic little circuitry board there on his upper abdomen. Belt looks fantastic. All the little details from the film. Arms, we have like the leather stitching up and down them. Same as we move down to the legs. Same thing where we get that nice kind of wavy fabric kind of look. And then the cape, which is actually, if you kind of take a look, there's actually two capes. So you actually have the cape, and then you have the kind of like little half robe right there. And they don't move a whole lot. This one actually does a little bit, but I think that looks really good, the dual layers. And then not a whole lot going on with the boots, no real, other than just standard kind of work boots, no real sculpting or anything like that. And then there is the peg hole for the base. Now as far as articulation, the Elite Series is all die-cast metal. He's a very, very, very heavy figure. There's a lot of weight to him. So actually, I'm surprised on how well he is standing compared to Kylo Ren and a few of the Force Awakens Elite Series figures I have purchased. But the only thing that they do lack is the articulation, and that is because they are die cast. Take a look. He does have head motion as far as he can look side to side. He can look up and down just a little bit. Actually, now that I'm really playing with it, I don't even know if I would call that being able to look up and down for as little as he can do it. Arms can move out that far, so actually a good range of motion for the arms. And then they obviously swivel up and down. Oh, let me get that in frame. So they can swivel up and down like so. They do have a hinge at the elbow, but that doesn't go in barely 90 degrees. If we take a look at that, that's about it. And now this is where the die-cast figures kind of lose me a little bit as far as articulation. There is no forearm swivel, bicep swivel, anything like that. The only thing that we have is the wrist rotate, and there's not even an up and down motion. It's just a zoom in, just a rotation like this. So unfortunately, it's not so much of a big deal with Vader, but some of the stormtroopers and things like that, you can't get the nice gun pose across the chest, kind of standing at attention pose. There's a little bit of restraint on the legs due to the half robe here, but they do go out about that far, and actually you can kind of move that cape a little bit, so you get fairly good range of motion doing the splits there. There is a joint at the knee, which again the cape kind of gets in the way there. But let me see if I can. It goes that's about as far as it goes. So it's about a 90 degree, a little bit less 90 degree, but you're not gonna be doing a whole lot of dynamic knee poses with him. And then there is forward and back articulation on the foot. There is no swivel and there is no ankle pivot. So I mean, like I said, overall it's a metal figure. It doesn't have a lot of the same joints that plastic figures allow for. So going into it knowing that it's a metal figure and that the articulation isn't the best, it serves its purpose for what it is. All right, and I just wanted to do a quick comparison between the scaling of the Elite Series Vader and the Elite Series Kylo Ren. And Kylo Ren does stand a little bit bigger, a little bit taller than Darth Vader, which I think is pretty accurate. I mean, they're roughly about the same size. The camera's throwing it off just a little bit. But I think they look really, really good together, and I guess Kylo Ren is one of my favorite pieces in my collection. But I think for the most part, all the Elite series work really, really well together as far as their scaling, and they look really good in a display together. All right, so my overall thoughts on the Elite series as a whole, I personally really, really like them. The figures have a lot of weight to them, being metal, which I actually really like. I think being metal gives them a little bit more of a kind of statue, higher end feel, even though they cost just $5 more than the Black Series. Now granted, these things do not have nearly the articulation that the Black Series does. So if you're a collector who really, really likes to pose your characters or your figures quite often and like to have them in an extremely dynamic pose, the Elite Series probably is not for you. The articulation is extremely limited, but if you go into it wanting more of a figure that acts more like, or more of a statue that has a few movable parts that you could, tweak here and there, but nothing too crazy or dynamic, I think that this is the perfect figure. Like I said, I love the sculpt. I think Disney did a fantastic job with this series. And for me, who keeps a lot of my figures at not necessarily generic poses, but nothing too crazy, this works perfect for me, where I get what I feel like is a higher end figure at a lower end price, and just sacrifice a little bit of the articulation. Alright, so that's going to do it for the Star Wars Elite Series Darth Vader review. I do have a couple more of the re-release figures from this line that I'm going to be reviewing over the next couple of days. So I hope to have those videos up by no later by this weekend. Just depends on what time allows me to do. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of this Vader figure, what you think of the Star Wars line in general, what you guys think of The Force Awakens or anything Star Wars related. I'm a massive Star Wars fan, so I'd love to talk about whatever you guys want. But yeah, so keep an eye out for my future reviews of the Star Wars Elite series. Make sure you guys subscribe, and if you guys like this video, hit the like button. I'm also on Twitter at slapshot_toy. Alright, so that's going to do it for this review. I will see you guys later. Thanks.